Hi, and welcome back to the Money Mindset and Business Podcast. It's been a while since I've been done a recording, but here I am back with my relaunch with my first ever guest, Debi Richins. So I've known Debbie for a few years now. I met her at a networking event where she was doing a talk. And I was kind of in awe of what she's been through and how she's created a business around her life experiences. And then at another event, she heard me speak. And we started talking from then on about similar experiences that we've been through in life around money, mindset, and business. And obviously, this is the Money, Mindset, and Business podcast. So, Debbie is the relationship phoenix. So, she helps with trauma and reclamation of family alienation, which is something she's got personal experience in, estrangement, abuse, and complex grief. I'm not going to go too much into it because I'll let Debbie explain it all. So, Debbie, please tell the audience who you are and what's going on with your life.
So I'm Debbie. I'm the eldest of four, always been the one that was expected to be responsible and to be looking after everyone else and looking out for everyone else. And that's followed me all my life. You know, this place of being responsible when everybody else absolved responsibility for the things they ought to have been doing. It followed itself into my marriage, which I didn't understand at the time. And I didn't understand until I started to do the grief training back in 2018. And then there was so many light bulbs that went off. You know, these things have happened because you've been in this place before and it's a familiar place and you've stayed there because it felt safer to stay there than not. And then going through the divorce brought a whole new dimension of alienation and estrangement into my world, which I just really had no understanding of at the time, because I didn't know anybody else that was experiencing what I was experiencing. And everybody that I did speak to dismissed me in one way or another. You know, oh, well, when she does this, when she does that, when she gets to this age. And they just kept loading the hope that I couldn't see because there was so much going on underneath that I was experiencing and I just didn't know how to explain it. So the grief training for me was actually the first step in beginning to understand what I'd experienced in the marriage, what I'd experienced in childhood, how it was affecting me emotionally in a mindset, how it was affecting me physically, and how it was affecting earning income and ability to be able to fend for myself. You know, so it was a massive journey.
I think a lot of people generally will underestimate the impact of life experiences on not just themselves as a person, but on their bodies, on their minds, on their. I mean, I speak from experience. I mean, I won't go into it now because this podcast is about you, not me. But stuff that happens in our lives manifests in our bodies.
Yeah.
Manifests in our minds. We have these belief systems that we make these things that happen in our life evidence that this belief system is true. So you
Exactly
said
that.
you were divorced, so you separated from your husband, moved out, gone on your own. What was that? Wait, did you have your business at that point?
I didn't. No, at that point I had a full-time job and I did little bits of odd things here and there to support it. And he was self-employed, so I did all the paperwork and the accounts and the bits and pieces to do with his business. So I was very busy, you know,
Yeah.
doing life as you do, because, you know, when you're in a marriage, you make those commitments for good or bad, you're going to do everything. But actually what I did was, I see now that I enslaved myself in that, because I was trying to keep everybody else's balls in the air because they weren't doing it for themselves. I.e., you know, his brother was killed in a car accident just before our second wedding anniversary. He started drinking, he never stopped. And then several years later, 5 years to be precise, 7 years later, his aunt, cousin, and her baby were killed in a car accident, and he just went completely off the planet. But not at any time would he ever take any responsibility for the grief he was experiencing, and that was the drink, and that was the going into himself and not being responsible as a part of a family unit. And so I had all these things heaped on me because my own childhood had been without any financial stability, with a sick mother, with an absent father. And I was not letting that happen to my own child. So I took all those things on because the belief in my head was that that's not happening to me. That's not happening to my daughter. I've got to keep this all going. I've got to keep it all afloat. And what I didn't realise was that it was very slowly killing me, but it didn't manifest until I started to go through the divorce. And then my body did one hell of a kickback and I did nearly die because of it. So, it was a great leveler, but it was also a very, very difficult time in my life. And I was very alone. I'd had to move away because I couldn't afford to live where I was. And that isolated me from all my friendships, from family members that I was close to that I could have just walked to, and that again has a massive impact on who you are and how you cope with things.
Definitely. I think as entrepreneurs and as women, it's our natural instinct a lot of the time to take on a lot of everybody else's stuff. I'm guilty of it myself. 100% I'm guilty of it myself. And the similarities there again with the feeling of loneliness. When you embark on this entrepreneurial journey, you are not like everybody else. It's a special breed of person that can become an entrepreneur. And if you are not in a group of friends and family that understand it, it can be very lonely and very separated.
Yes. Yeah, very much so, and of course the first business I set up was my bra making, my lingerie business, and it was so wide of the mark from what anybody would have expected me to do. I've sewn all my life, but my other half didn't know that I sewed when he decided to send me off on a bra making course because I had a terrible time buying bras that fitted, because I was as skinny as a rake and very well endowed, and you just couldn't buy comfortable bras at that point. They were only just starting to draft the patterns and create the patterns. They hadn't even hit the market at that point. So bra shopping was like, we'll go and visit 5 different major town centres, major cities, and see if we can get bras that fit. But I wasn't the only person doing that, because every bra shop you went to, there were no bras that fitted because they were all sold. They were all gone.
Everybody wanted them.
And so I was sent on this little weekend away to go and learn how to draft a basic bra pattern. And I have to say, I was actually really disappointed, because she'd already part drafted. She taught at De Montfort University in Leicester, which is where they teach lingerie making in this country. And Leicester is the bra making come underwear capital of the country. So there's lots and lots of people up there, because I'm way down south in West Berkshire. So I'm good 2 hours away from Leicester. And everybody was like, well, what are you doing that down here for? And it was because of the experience I had, and actually learning how to make bras for myself and doing my plus size training with actually the man that designed a great deal of the plus size, that you buy in an awful lot of the different brands, was quite a thing, And to listen to this man talking about going into the bra making world at 14 because his father had been a drafter and his grandfather had been a drafter for fabric and patterns, and then being told by Marks and Spencers that he was useless and being kicked out, set his mindset in that place of, I've got to do better. So he went away and learned how to do better. And then he now trains, I think he's possibly retired now, but for many, many years, he trained all the people that make all the bras that you go and buy in all of the places. So, it was like, that was quite a big thing.
Yeah.
And it was exciting to do because it was so different. And the only reason I gave that up was because of ill health. Because at the same time as doing that, I was caring for his mum, my partner, my mum. And I was like, I didn't really have time for myself. And it got to me physically in the end. And my body just said, sorry, I'm not doing that anymore. You've got to stop. And I
Yeah.
was about a year from breaking even then, so I had been heading in the right direction.
I mean, what I'm hearing in this is a lot of the time entrepreneurs make a business out of necessity. So you saw a gap in the market that you wanted to fill because you needed something. So you were like, okay, I can't find a bra that fits, so I'm gonna make one that fits.
Yeah.
And then your next business, the Relationship Phoenix, comes out of obviously again more life experience. So you were almost at break even with the bra business. You stopped that because of ill health, which is, I think, an issue for a lot of us. That's the reason why this podcast stopped for 18 months, was ill health. So you retrained. How did you overcome the trauma of obviously everything that happened to have the confidence to start another business?
So it was tough. When I gave the business up, I was 16. So in 2015, my first grandchild had been born, and everybody was telling me, oh, well, when she has a baby, everything will change. And to me, it felt like pulling hen's teeth. You know, I was only allowed to see her once a month, was recovering from second very serious surgery. So for the first 3 months, I actually wasn't allowed to drive myself. So my partner was always with me. My granddaughter was born in the January, and there was a lot of control around me being even allowed to be, name myself as a grandmother. It was, it was all about, you'll do as I say, you'll not be the person you are, and it was, I was being controlled emotionally by my then adult child. And it was a really tough place to be, because whenever I tried to speak up for myself, I would be jumped on by various people as if I was doing something wrong, when actually, why couldn't I, be excited about being a grandmother on Facebook the way everybody else was? Why couldn't I go and see my family and extol that joy? I just wasn't allowed. It was, everything was done to make me shut up. I even got told off for sharing a photograph, and I'd only shared a pair of feet because they were in a little heart shape.
Yeah.
And I was told off for that. So it was really hard. My journey into grandmotherhood was not a happy thing. It was a thing that was controlled. And all of a sudden, my godson and I share the birthday, and for many years we've shared a birthday dinner together. And I said to her, I'd really love you to be there. I'd really love you to come. So she made the effort to come. She was living in Oxfordshire at the time, in Tame, and that's about an hour from where we were having dinner. And she rang me twice on the journey to say how she was really worried she was going to be late because there were unexpected roadworks and things. And I was thinking, gosh, this is all really positive. She wants to be here because she wouldn't be bothering to take the time to ring me if she didn't. And we had a wonderful, wonderful birthday lunch together, and it was beautiful fun. And then within days, I found myself being slandered on Facebook. And I didn't understand what had happened, because the last time I'd seen her, it had been a happy occasion. And she'd bought me a really thoughtful birthday gift, which she'd never really done before. Not since we'd lived together, so that was, goodness me. Where are we? That was 2015, and we hadn't lived together since 2005, so that was a big thing for me that she'd taken that time. And I thought that was going to, we're going in the right direction. And then the slander happened, and it was just before her wedding. And it was all about making me wrong, all about making me a witch and a demon and a dragon and all these things that I wasn't. And it was a very unsettling experience. And I was so shocked by what had happened when I thought things had finally started to settle into that happy place. And it absolutely pulled everything from me. And I think that was the beginning of why my business at the time failed, was because emotionally it was a really tough time, and I was finding it hard to keep it all together. And with that experience, I really needed to understand my emotions, what was going on, why I was experiencing things in such depth, and why I just couldn't seem to let go of any of it. It was like I was carrying around a great big vegetable sack full of spiky nasties rather than, nice tasty vegetables. And every time I put my hand in the sack, something bit me. It was a really tough time. So I had taken some time to do some work with EFT, and I found that was really helpful.
That's tapping, if you're not sure,
Yes,
anybody.
tapping, yeah, emotional freedom tapping. I'd done a few other little things. I did a lot of meditation, which I found incredibly helpful, but I wanted to understand more. And through my years doing the bra work, I was in a wonderful networking group, I Am Woman, which originated in Wales, but because I was in, Swindon was my closest one. So we had a really lovely affiliation. So I have a lot of connections in Wales now. And I'd met a lady there who talked about this book that she taught from that was called The Grief Recovery Method. And I just knew in my head that this made sense and that I had to find a way to do this training. But I didn't have the money then. But in 2015, I did have a car accident that wasn't my fault. And the money that came from that in 2019 paid, well, 2018, it was the end of 2018, paid for my training in 2019 to do grief recovery. And that was always my aim, that I was going to do it, but I just didn't know when, because it made complete sense to me. But in that intervening time, I was doing my tapping, I was doing all the other things that I could learn, and nothing quite hit the mark. And then I did the grief training, and I said to the lady, Sue, I said, so do I do my work with you first and then I go off and do the training, or do I go and do the training and then come back and do the work with you? Oh no, she said, there's no point in you. I'm talking myself out of customer, but she said, when you go and do the training, you'll do the work because you do it before you come away and do it for anyone else. You do it for yourself. So off I go to Cambridgeshire, and in less than 4 days, my whole world had changed. My whole perspective had changed. The things I suddenly realized that I'd been carrying that weren't mine, the things that I learned that I could forgive, and how to do it really healthily, how to apologize, but not just to other people, because this is something we were never taught in childhood. Never taught how to do an apology, because actually the most effective apologists start with doing it to yourself, as do the forgives. And when you can learn to forgive yourself and you can learn to apologize to yourself for staying in that place and not knowing how to deal with it, there's an awful lot you can let go of. And for me, it was like somebody taking a massive blanket off and the sun coming out. That was the only way I could describe it. And one of the most wonderful things about that training was a beautiful friend who I'd actually known for some years in a group that I was running, that I had started with my cohort in 2014. So she and I had been connected a long time on the internet, but it wasn't until we were in that room and she said, I listened to your story and I realized who I was looking at. And we had the massive embrace, and we're very close friends still.
Yeah.
Because we both understood what, lived in this place of alienation and estrangement. So it just goes to show as well, like-minded souls that want to step up out of that can find a way, because you're the victim when you choose to stay there.
Yes,
You're not the
definitely.
victim when you choose to step up and out.
It's that victim mentality, isn't it?
Mm.
Oh,
And
woe
that
is me,
is
sort of
grief.
thing.
It's the unacknowledged stuff you're carrying that's
Yeah.
holding you there. So it's taking that step to say, actually, I want to change it, and I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to start recognizing where I am in this.
Yeah, so essentially you doing the training to do what you do now is what gave you the confidence to step into your current business.
Exactly that, and it also gave me the confidence to step into NLP and hypnotherapy and become a master trainer and a master coach, and just take myself that step further. I've done a lot of trauma training as well, and really learned to understand how the brain and the body interact with what's the words that are going on, and bringing all of those things together has been hugely important, because it really taught me how to understand myself, but also I don't know. I have this weird knack of being able to see deeper than people are telling me. So, I can, it's a bit like pulling a string. I
Yeah.
can a little bit harder and pull a few more words out, but what you're not telling me is, and then they look at me and go, oh, yeah. And that's been massive because I've been able to trust my instinct a lot more, which I don't think I ever did actually when I was married.
I don't think a lot of us actually trust our instincts when it comes to life and anything really.
Mm.
We know in our gut what we need to do and should do, but we're too interested in what other people are thinking about what we're doing and saying, so we just don't do it.
Exactly that. Or we just don't feel safe doing it. So we're like, that's outside of my comfort zone. Whereas now I tend to just step way out of my comfort zone an awful lot
Yeah.
more, and I'm happy doing it. Whereas
Dye your
before I
hair
would have,
blue so people are staring at you.
yeah,
Those of you who are listening on the podcast, and my hair is rockabilly blue from Manic Panic. So
it's
I've dyed my
brilliant.
hair blue, and people are staring at me. And I hate people staring at me, so I've done it with a purpose to allow people to stare at me and for me to just stand in my power of I have got blue hair. I wanted blue hair, so I dyed my hair blue.
I think it's fabulous. When you did that sort of one little flick that you had, it was like, just go for the whole
Just
thing.
do it all.
Yeah, and it does look very, very,
I see it. If you've
proud.
watched the film Inside Out,
Yes,
and I'm channeling my inner joy.
I love that.
So it's joy. My hair is joy.
Yeah,
And I'm
I
living
even
in
sense
joy. So it's not just about what you say and what you do. You can change your appearance if you
yes,
want, just to make yourself feel better. And I feel good with blue hair, so I'm going to live with blue hair.
I love it.
Anyway, it's been wonderful chatting to you, Debbie, and hopefully some of the listeners will hear your story and be able to resonate.
Mm-hmm.
I will share Debbie's links in the show notes, so if you want to connect with her, please do. She's got an incredible story to tell. I mean, you literally heard part of it today, but the rest of it is just incredible. And if you feel like Debbie might help you with anything that's going on in your life and in your business or anything else, I'm sure she'd be happy to have a chat with you.
I also have my free group, that people can join if they want to come in there and get to know me that way after the silence on Facebook. So, if they can't find the link, I'm very happy for them to contact me
I'll
via
throw all the
Messenger or
links in the
whatever.
show notes. It's all good.
Yeah,
Right, thank you very much, Debbie, and I will see you all in the next episode.
thank you.